Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about something that was requested of us, and that is when you adopt a child, specifically in our case from foster care, should you change their name? Can you change their name? And did we change our children's names when we adopted them from foster care? So if you're interested in that, stick around. But first, if you are new here, my name is Anna Leonora, and together with my husband, Jason, we are foster parents in real life. And here on my channel from the foster and adoptive parents, I'm still getting used to that, you guys. Bear with me on that one. I'm still just not used to saying that we're adoptive parents because, it's only been a month since our adoption was finalized. But we are foster and adoptive parents in real life, and here on my channel from the Fosters, we do foster parenting and now adoptive parenting life together, and we raise awareness for the foster care system, children in foster care, and for foster parenting. So if you're interested in any of that, please consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel down below. While you're down there, don't forget to hit your post notification bell so that you won't miss when I post any new videos like this, and so that you can join my growing cyber family here on YouTube. All right, let's just get right into it today. So, can you change a child's name when you adopt them, whether that is a domestic adoption or an adoption from foster care? The answer is yes. You absolutely can change their name. You become that child's legal parent. Of course, if you adopted them, you did not give birth to them, and you will never be their birth parent. That just is what it is. But legally, you become their parent. And so legally, you have any right over that child that you would if you were their birth parent. So yes, absolutely, you can change their name. A lot of parents do that with the adoption. So they have their adoption attorneys assist with that paperwork, and they just do it all at the same time. That is what we did. It just makes everything a lot easier than trying to do the adoption and then changing a name later on down the road. But yes, you absolutely can change a child's name, first, middle, and last. You can do anything you want with it. Does that mean you should? There are arguments for both sides of the coin here, right? So when a child is adopted from foster care, adoption period, like just in general, comes with a lot of trauma, a lot of loss, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of feelings of missing identity. And there are a lot of adult adoptees who have come forward to discuss their feelings on their adoptive parents changing their birth name. And some adult adoptees are cool with it, but many are not. And I think that as adoptive parents, we have a duty to listen to adult adoptees and really take their thoughts into consideration. Hold on one second. My cat is over here chewing on something he's not supposed to. So just, there we go. Here he is, my naughty little boy. This is Binks. Look at how green his eyes look in this lighting. Look at how grumpy he is because I took his plastic bag away. He's being naughty. I think it's our duty as parents in general to really raise our children in a very them-focused mindset, right? So parents have a duty to not do harm to their children, and we're all parents. We make mistakes. Things happen. Sometimes we act in a way that we think is in the child's best interest, but then as the child grows up, maybe when they're an adult, they tell us that they felt differently, and that happens, right? But as an adoptive parent, there's this added layer that comes with adoption that I think it's so important for adoptive parents to listen to adult adoptees and take that information into consideration when parenting your adopted children. And especially when you adopt children from foster care, the adoptions typically do not happen when they're infants, right? Because in many, many cases, these bio parents are given a case plan to work. Oftentimes the kids are not taken as infants, they're taken as older children. But even if they were taken as an infant, children who were taken in the hospital. Maybe they were born with drugs in their system or whatever the situation may be. Those adoptions usually don't happen until those kids are, toddlers or young children, right? And while they are in foster care, they go by their birth name. So that is a part of their identity. And this is something that their birth mother or birth parents felt strongly about to name the child whatever they named them. And they're already losing so much of their identity and so much of their family that a lot of adult adoptees say that they really wish that their name had not been changed. So you have to take that into consideration. However, as a parent, right, now you're adopting this child, you have to act in their best interest. There are times when it is a safety issue. The bio parents are not to know who adopted their child. And there are people who will argue, those instances are so rare. So it's not the norm to change the child's entire name, because those safety issues are so rare. But I am here to tell you, as a foster parent, those safety issues are not so rare. They are not the norm. But they absolutely happen, and they happened with one of my children. So I will never, ever, ever reveal his birth name on camera unless he gets to be, an older teen and is capable and able of, to make that choice for himself. And at that point, when he's older, it becomes a little less of a safety issue. But right now he's so young, he's so small. We will not ever reveal what his birth name was, because it is a safety issue. And so we changed his entire name, first, middle, and last, changed the whole thing. Now, I will say that he, again, for safety issues, when he was taken into foster care, immediately did start going by a nickname. Without revealing too much information, his was a case that did make it to our local news. And so people did know his name in our area. And so he started going by a nickname, the nickname Lee, which is not part of his birth name. But one of his names, first, middle, or last, could arguably be shortened to Lee. And so he has been going by Lee a large majority of his life. And so when it came time to change his name, he actually is so young, he doesn't know his birth name. He's gone by Lee for so long that Lee is the name that he knows. So we asked him what he wanted his name to be, and he's very young, so it's not like he has a whole ton of other names lined up, and he just said, "I'm Lee." So we knew we needed to keep something in his name that could be shortened to Lee, and we gave him Otto as a family name on my side. Liam, my husband, came up with, and Liam can be shortened to Lee. So he now will go by Otto, or still he'll go by Lee. And it depends on the day for him. Now he sometimes prefers to go by Otto. He's kind of gotten used to his adoptive name at this point. So sometimes he'll say, "Nope, I'm Otto today." And other times he'll say, "I'm Lee." So you just have to kind of go with what he wants. But we did keep that nickname for him. And of course, we have a copy of his original birth certificate, and we know his birth name, and he will know it when he's older. Right now, he's so young that, like, when we say it to him, he really doesn't understand what that means. But it really was a safety issue in his case. And I know of a lot of other cases where it is a safety issue. And not necessarily a safety issue just because of the bio parents, although they don't know who we are, they have not met us, they don't know our names, they don't know where we live, and there are court orders for that. We are less concerned about the bio parents than we are the fact that, again, if someone had Googled his name, there were news articles about it, and we didn't ever want that to be something that stuck with him. Of course, he will know his story as he grows up, but that just wasn't something that we wanted for him ever in his life. So, and there were other reasons. He shared a name with people who have very long rap sheets, and we didn't ever want, if someone was doing a background check on him, for it to ever be confused for the people he shares names with. So it was a safety issue in a lot of different ways. And that is, I think, more common than people realize. But the other things that happen is there are people who do a safe surrender of their child. And if you do a safe surrender, the birth name is not known. So when they come into foster care, they usually get called safe surrender as their legal name. And they get a birth certificate that says safe surrender as their name. Nobody wants to keep that as their child's name, right? Like, that's horrible. Or sometimes I've heard of if the parents leave at the hospital before giving them a name, which does happen, they'll get the official name of baby girl or baby boy. And I think those are kind of self-explanatory, right? There's also instances where people will name their kids things that are highly inappropriate. I've heard of people giving their kids names that are illicit drugs or STDs and just all kinds of other stuff. I've heard of people giving their kids names after serial killers. So I've heard all kinds of crazy things that just, as a parent, when you're adopting a child, those aren't things you want on your child's resume when they become an adult and are trying to find a partner and a career and all these other things. So I think in those instances, it absolutely makes sense because you're trying to set your child up for success. Now, when you have a child who was named a normal name or a family name from his or her bio family, I think that it's important to keep some of that identity, right? So in our other child's case, he was old enough to have these conversations with us, and we asked him how he felt about changing his name, and he was pretty dead set on keeping his first name, and we were fine with that because Jesse's a normal name, right? So he did have a different middle name, obviously a different last name. We did change the middle name and the last name. We changed the middle name because it was a traditionally female name. Not that we necessarily are raising our children with, typical gender norms or trying to fit them into little boxes, but he didn't feel particularly attached to his middle name, at least that he expressed to us. And, Jesse is a gender neutral name as it is. So we just wanted to make sure that when looking at a resume, people will know what he identifies as, which he does identify as male. He is old enough to tell us that he is biologically male and he identifies as male. But we've had these conversations with him, right? Like, he's almost 7 years old and he can have those conversations with us. So he didn't feel particularly strongly about keeping his middle name. Obviously, he was going to get our last name. So we ended up giving him, we didn't feel it was fair for us to give a family name to one child and not the other. So he got the middle name Peter, which is my brother's name, and it is a family name in my family. So they each got a family name. The difference is that one kept his biological birth name because it was important to him. So because it was important to him, it was important to us. The other did not get to keep any parts of his biological name other than that one of his biological names was able to be shortened to Lee. And so we kept that as an option in his adopted name. So should an adoptive parent change an adoptive child's name? It depends on the case. It depends on the case. It depends on the child. It depends on a lot of things, the safety. But I think that if there is an ability to keep some or all of a child's birth name, then that option should be heavily considered, because we've learned from adult adoptees that that's important to a lot of them. And I think that if we're trying to do what's best for our child, if there's a way to keep that safely and in a way that's not going to hinder, getting careers in the future or anything like that, then I think that we should consider that option, right? But there's also age to take into consideration, right? So when you're adopting a child from foster care, if the child is old enough to be able to have those conversations with, have the conversations with them, right? Ask the children what they want. I have heard of children who were adopted from foster care that wished they had had those conversations because maybe they would have expressed that they did want to change their name. A lot of kids that are adopted much older, like teenagers, want to be able to have a say in what their name is going to be. And I think that they should have that say. We gave our kids a say in the best way that we could, and in an age appropriate way. Again, my children were only 4 and 6 when they got adopted. So the 4-year-old has very limited knowledge on what was going on, and we had to factor that in. And our 6-year-old had a little bit of a better understanding. So he was able to make his opinions known. And because it was important to him to keep his first name, it was important to us to keep his first name. So I just think when it comes to changing the name, can you? Yes. Legally, absolutely, 100% yes. Should you? Maybe. In certain circumstances, absolutely. And in other circumstances, I think you should consider maybe not. But it really has to be, like most everything else in foster care, it really has to be case, child, and family dependent, right? Because every case and child and family are going to be different. But I just urge you that if you are adopting children from foster care, that you do some research, speak to adult adoptees from foster care or former foster youth. If your children are old enough to have those conversations with them, have the conversations with them. And just try to keep in mind, even if you were to move like a biological first name and now make it a middle name and change the first name, or just change the middle name, or just change the first name and keep the biological middle name. There's so many different ways to do it to at least incorporate and keep some sort of parts of the name in there if you can. It's not always going to be possible, but when you can, I think it's important. And the other thing to remember is that there is an ability that when someone grows up that they can change their own name, right? So if you do something with your child's name and they grow up and say, look, I really want my biological name back, I'm going to go and change it, then that's a conversation that you should have with your child as they're getting older and they're able to make those decisions. That is an option as well if they're really unhappy and you want to make sure that your child is happy and living their most authentic life. But I just urge you to not take that decision lightly, because these children have already lost so much of their family and their identity that sometimes their name is kind of that last little piece of connection that they have to their biological family. And we don't want to take that away if we don't have to. So long story short, can you? Legally, 100% absolutely you can. Should you? In certain circumstances, 100% absolutely you should. But definitely don't take it lightly. Think it through. Have the conversations with the kids if they're old enough. And yeah, just as a parent, always be trying to think about what is in your child's best interest for their identity, their sense of self-worth, and for their future. I hope this made sense. If you have questions for me, leave them down below. Again, we had 2 very different cases, so we had to do 2 different things with their names. But every case and child and family is going to be different. And otherwise, until next time, continue to go out and shine your light into the world. I love you all. Bye.